What's up, ladies and gentlemen? You're about to watch a podcast of Warriors basketball here on Sideline Bay Area Sports with Mark Willard from 95.7 The Game as my host. But before that, if you like what you're watching and you love the podcast, please support it by going ahead and clicking the link below and buy me a coffee. I'll see you in the next one. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sideline Sports. I am Trevor, your host. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Today, we have our guest from 95.7 The Game, Mark Willard of Willard and Dibs. I really appreciate you being here, Mark. Thank you for showing up, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's fun to come on your show instead of the other way around. This is good.
Good, good. Well, hey, you can say whatever you want here. It's a podcast, so. but
Finally, I hate that guy Dibs. I've been waiting
yeah,
to
I
say,
mean, oh my God, man. Oh, when I had him on my podcast, man, dude, I'll tell you what, the numbers he throws out, I'm just like, I go off of I go off of numbers and things like that, but he is at a different level, man.
yeah.
When it comes to just the statistics, he's just like, oh yeah, back in 2004, the Warriors won in the month of August like three times. It's like, oh my God,
I
dude.
know he loves
How
he
do you
loves that.
know?
That's why we created this character that we've been playing with lately, called Deep Dive Dibs, because he loves to spend his morning before the show diving into whether it's the numbers, analytics, things that have happened historically. And it's funny, it kind of works in a way because I'm could not be more opposite. Like I
Yeah.
don't like the way I kind of assess sports and the way I watch sports is much more kind of based on feel.
Yep.
It's much more based, like we always joke with each other. He's a results guy, I'm a process guy.
Yep.
Like I'm much more into the process and because the results are out of our control sometimes and whatnot. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
makes
So
makes
anyway, man, I
makes
I
for a
mean,
lot of
I
fun.
I am, and that's kind of one of the reasons I was kind of excited to have you on the show because I am so much more about feel and momentum and just how things are going with the game and with players, not only in the moment but over time. So I look at things in that way, and usually my intuition and the way that I feel things are going, usually it turns out to be correct. So aside from numbers, I mean, I can't deny some numbers, but I'm not by large
Sure.
a numbers guy. So let's jump into it. Warriors talk.
Yeah.
Okay, first question. Um, I want to get this out of the way because this is going to be talked about until it's all over with. Is the Giannis thing? So the question I have for you is: okay, is a Giannis trade possible? If it is possible, I'm looking at this in two ways, and I'd love to hear your feedback on it. Number one, if you have to give up Jimmy Butler for Giannis, you're kind of saying Giannis, in my mind, Giannis is going to be that guy when Curry is gone, and it's going to be hard to win when you just have Giannis and Curry and you basically traded everybody else away for him. I guess, is there a way to get Giannis on this team if it's even possible, which is it's a big if. But if it's possible, is there a trade out there where you can keep Jimmy Butler and Curry and bring Giannis on board?
There,
Do the Warriors have the capital for that, or is it
there is.
possible?
There absolutely is. And I've actually I checked in with my guy. I have a guy who's much more in on the NBA capologist front than I am. And with this basic question of like, would it have to include Jimmy? What would it look like? What are the rules? And so it's let me say two things first. None of this happens unless Giannis says it has to happen. Like he's not going to the Warriors unless he tells the Bucks, you have to send me there. That's the only place that I'll
Yep.
go. So that's step one, and I find that to be unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely. Step two, though, then you want to know what the Bucks want, right? And so if the Bucks, you would actually think if I were the Bucks, I wouldn't want the Jimmy Butlers and the Draymond Greens of the world because they've already had their 35th birthday. I would want, you're going to get draft picks, you're going to get a ton of capital either way, but I would want all of the young guys. If
Yep.
you consider Jonathan Kaminga a sign and trade piece that can cover somewhere between 25 and 30 million of the almost 55 that Giannis makes, then you start piling in names like Moses Moody and Brandon Pajemski. You'd have to throw in Buddy Hield. And can you financially get to the number? Yes, you can. So there's the deal that can happen. The problem with this is it leaves the Warriors in, I think, kind of it's a video game land. Like it'd be fun in NBA 2K. I don't think it's fun in real life.
Yeah.
You would essentially be locked in as a second apron team. Your cap number would be around $208 million, and all but 15 million of that would go to Steph, Giannis, Jimmy, and Draymond. So you
Yeah.
have $15 million to fill out 10 more roster spots. So it's pretty much all minimum guys and just scrap heap kind of stuff. It's really, really challenging to even make that a competitive team. If one of them gets hurt, it's quite frankly a bad team. It leaves you with nothing in the future and is dangerous with regard to all of the things that nobody wants to talk about, which is the second apron and the penalties
Well,
with
that's what I was going to ask you. The
all of that
second
stuff.
apron is 207.8 million.
Correct.
So you're
You would
saying if they
have to
go after
stay under
Giannis
that.
and they keep everybody else, you're looking at 215 million roughly.
Well, I
Something like that.
mean, but you wouldn't be keeping everyone else. That's part of
Yeah.
the, you know what I mean? There would be
Yeah.
some renouncing, like it literally would be minimum salary guys.
Yeah.
And if you grab so yes, there would be Kevin Knox would be on the team and all those players like that. Sure, Pat Spencer, you can stay. Like all of those players, that's
Yeah.
what you would fill out the roster with. So would your starting lineup be amazing? Sure. Would your second unit be amazing? Probably not. And what happens if any little thing goes wrong? So I answer that to say it's kind of, I don't even think it's necessarily something that's all that attractive in the real world.
Yeah.
You have to go through two or three pipe dreams for it to be reality anyway.
Well, that's the thing right there is that sometimes we think about can we do it and then we don't think about should we do it kind of thing, right? The whole Jurassic Park thing where yeah. So I mean it's like okay, we're looking at this season and we're looking at what the Warriors did once they acquired Jimmy Butler. How far off are they from really competing for a finals if everybody stays healthy? So I look at other names and I'm looking at names like Brooke Lopez or maybe even Jared Allen or Steven Adams and some of those guys who can really kind of help fill out the roster a little bit more and get this team over the hump. I don't think the Warriors need to go out there and land a superstar to win another chip is all I'm saying. I'd love to hear your opinion on that because although it would be great to get him, I don't think you need to go that far to get a team together that you're building around Curry, who is dropping off a little bit, but still by and large commands a presence on the court and attention. So, which way do you think is a better way to go? I mean,
Yeah,
wouldn't you rather look at those guys?
I agree with you. Like again, I sort of like I'm gonna try to ride the fence a little bit because it's like if Giannis says he wants to come to the Warriors, you probably got to figure out a way to make that happen because it's
Yeah,
freaking Giannis and it's so wonderful for now and into the future, and that's the way Joe Lacob thinks. But if you want to talk about actual realistic and responsible ways to go about this, then yeah, I'm with you. I do think that there are pieces that they can add. There are a lot of interesting free agent centers out there. And I'm going to point to something that I heard Shams say yesterday. He predicted that this was going to be the craziest offseason ever,
mm,
basically. And so that can't just be Giannis. Like
no,
I know there's Durant, but I just think that the parity is at such a level, and so many teams think that they're like, ooh, if we just tweak this, if we just get that, we might actually have a shot at this. You see what just happened in the Eastern Conference. This is crazy. Like the
yeah,
Pacers are probably going to go to the NBA Finals, and so when those examples present themselves to teams, it really starts to make them think. And so I think there are going to be other people on the move that maybe we're not thinking about. And how interesting or available could they be to the Warriors? You know what I mean? Like what if Jonathan Kaminga in a sign and trade sort of a way can somehow land the Warriors Miles Turner
yeah,
or something like that? I don't even know how realistic that is. I don't know what the market is going to bear. I keep hearing that nobody's got any money to spend.
hmm
So maybe there's going to be players who are available for less than we think they're going to be available for. So But I'm with you, whether a Turner, I've always loved Cam Johnson. We've always talked a lot about him with the
Yeah.
Brooklyn Nets. But there are ways. The Warriors need, 3 and D, better shooting, and obviously they need somebody who's 7 feet tall.
They
And
need
I
a
think
big
there
guy,
are
but they
ways
need
to
a
do
guy who
that.
can move because this is an offense that's it's like it's a type of triangle offense, which means your center is not going to be standing in the center of the court, right?
Right.
You're constantly going to be moving. So that's the thing that I'm thinking about when I look at some of these names like Steven Adams or like a Brook Lopez. Like, how do they fit into this offense? Who do you go out and get out there that can shoot, who can block at the rim, who can move? I it's a tough ask, but I hear you. I would much rather see the Warriors go out there and look at this a little bit more intelligently than just throw all their chips in at Giannis if he wants to come here. Because I do agree with you. If you go get Giannis, somebody gets hurt. That's it. And we got to be honest. Draymond Green is not getting any younger. Out between Steph Curry and Giannis and Green, Green's the guy that's got a few years left, maybe, before I think he's kind of like falling off a cliff. And I could be wrong, but it's just, in my mind, I think it's better to go out there and explore the free agency because I agree. I think this offseason could be massive for everybody. Look at the Rockets. If the Rockets go and get Durant, like all the rumors are kind of talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of scary. That's kind of scary. And I don't think that the Warriors have an opportunity at Durant because if they did, then he would have just approved that trade opportunity earlier on, right? So that's kind of out of the picture. Luke is already with the Lakers, whether he likes it or not. So now and you don't need those guys. I just feel like you need to go out there and get a couple of guys who are consistent. That was a problem with this team, I feel
Look,
like.
yeah, you got to remember the baseline that we're working with, and I get it when you're coming through a dynasty and you come in seventh or eighth place or whatever they came in. There's this feeling immediately like, oh my God, we gotta redo this. This is not okay. The Warriors are a very good basketball team right now, as currently constructed. After Jimmy Butler, they were the 2 seed in the West. Just after, if you just look at basketball from the moment Jimmy was acquired, they were the 2 seed,
Yeah.
and then they won a playoff series, and then they lost their best player. And you can absolutely, that's part of the conversation is do they have the capability of being healthy through the playoffs? That's a fair question and kind of a different question. But they are a good team right now, so the idea of just tightening screws a little bit, as far as who fits, that's a 7 footer, it's a good question. At the same time, I also think this team might be ready to evolve a little bit with how they go about doing things offensively. They did a little bit when Jimmy arrived already, and now Steph's going to be in the season that pushes him towards age 38, and he got hurt in a usage injury. So, do they want to start putting a little bit less on his shoulders? Maybe. I mean, I don't know what the offseason will hold. They need to see who's on the team, but I do know this. We focus on offense, and I think the team spends a little bit more time thinking about defense. They do not want Draymond Green playing center
No.
for the majority of the year or quite frankly any of the year anymore. So they're gonna have to go get a center.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think that's the focus. So that kind of leads me to my next question, which is what if in this world the Warriors do absolutely nothing? What if they don't make a move and nothing falls their way and next season they start with the roster they have? Do we need to start looking at the possibility of, I mean, that window's closing, right? So do we need to start looking at the possibility that this Steph Curry era is basically just about over if you don't
I
get something
mean,
done? This next year seems to me like a big year for the Warriors and Curry. After that, I'm not sure how far he starts to drop off.
well, look, I'll put it this way though. You could look at it that way, and that's very fair. I believe, and I'm not reporting this, I believe Steph's done after this contract. I don't think he's going to play anymore after that.
I would
So
agree.
So then, if that's correct, go on that premise for a second and think about the importance that he and the organization are going to put on these next 2 years. And which one's more important? Well, this one, because that's the younger of the two. It's the one where you sort of know what you have in this moment. So I think that they're going to continue to do the same thing that they've been doing for a while, which is they're going to prioritize the remainder of Steph Curry's career. I don't think they go through that thought process of like, well, is he dropping off? Is it about to stop? That's sort of that like accurate but fear-based thing that the Warriors just don't think that way. And so they still believe he's a really good player, and they still believe it's worth rolling the dice that he might actually stay healthy through a playoff run. And so that's the way they're going to play it. And if they do nothing, then they're probably, then they're not going to be equipped, I think, to go for the long haul, but they're still a relevant team. And they're going to be forced into one move. I mean, they've got to, like, obviously something is going to
I know you laughed a little bit when I said
Jonathan
that because
Kaminga,
it's
something
not
is going to
possible.
happen there. Something has to happen. He
Yeah,
can't come back
I
without a
know.
contract. So something's going to happen.
Yeah. No, I know that's not possible, but I just thought to myself, like, what in this crazy world if nothing happens? But I totally agree with you. I don't think he plays after 2 years. I think it's much more reasonable to believe that, especially if he gets one more. If he doesn't, who knows? Maybe in 2 years he could be enticed to sign a 1 year deal or another, and nothing long term.
It's
But I agree with
possible.
you. I think these 2 years are very important. The next year is important. So is there a, I guess when you're looking at who the Warriors go after and look at who they're either signing in free agency or trade value, I think JK's gone. Okay. I think that's just like, I mean, it's just a given. I think he's going to be traded because he's got great trade value and he doesn't fit in this system very well. I think he's a good player. I don't think that, I think he's going to be traded. So you have somebody there. So is there a difference? I guess my question is, do you think Kerr and the front office are aligned on who he wants on this roster as far as a type of player? Or do you think that maybe there's a difference of opinion there?
I think this is going to sound weird, but there's plenty of both there. I absolutely firmly believe that Steve Kerr and Mike Dunleavy are aligned 100%. And then when you start to go into some of the other names that are involved here is where there are some blurred lines, like what does Kirk Lacob think? We know his dad loves Jonathan Kaminga, but who's really calling the shots? Like obviously Lacob has the final say on things, but he also wants to delegate to these people who are in those positions to do that job. And so I think that Mike Dunleavy and Steve Kerr are completely aligned. I think Dunleavy is off to a wonderful start as a GM. And I agree with you that they will be very, very prepared to send Jonathan somewhere in a sign and trade. But that has to present itself.
Yeah.
Someone has to want that. Someone has to want to pay Jonathan. Somebody has to have somebody to give the Warriors that they want. But one thing I would really doubt is, this idea of letting him walk and getting nothing in return.
No, no, no,
I see that as next to impossible for me to believe that the Warriors would play it that way.
no, man. In my opinion, his trade value is an all-time high right now. If you look at how he scores the ball without Steph Curry on the court, it's clear to other teams, I think, that this guy can come in and give you 25, 30 points a game. It's baffling to me to see how far he falls off when Curry is on the court. I don't understand why that's happening. It might just be me not understanding the game. I guess. I mean, I don't understand why those two can't function on the court at the same time.
The ball, the
Yeah,
ball.
yeah, but when Steph Curry's got like three guys covering him, just blanketing him.
Right. But Jonathan needs the ball. He is a ball dominant player. And even if Steph Curry has three people guarding him, it's not as simple as just to say, well, then pass the ball to Jonathan Kaminga and then let him go do his thing. Because the way that the Warriors offense works is all about relocation. And
Yep.
so if Steph is going to give up the ball, what do you watch the Warriors do when they give up the ball? They take off, and
They run.
everybody's like running around like fireflies. And the goal is to get the ball back, ideally to Steph,
Yeah.
for an open look. And what happens when the ball gets to Jonathan's hands is he wants to go score it. And
Yeah.
that is what he's good at. And there's not a whole lot else on the floor that he's great at. I
Well,
don't, I'm not taking
that
a
was going
shot
to
at
be
him.
my question to you, man.
Yeah, he can be a good defender, and sometimes he rebounds and this and that. And so he's a wonderful basketball player. But here's the best way for me to say it. What he's really good at, that job is not open here.
Yeah.
That job is open some other places, and he's very good at it, and it's an important job. But there's two people ahead of him who are
Yep.
both going to the Hall of Fame who currently have that job. And I
Right.
think if any Warrior fan stays rational for a minute, you can understand where the organization's coming from. You can scream about the future and development all you want, but that is by definition to the detriment of this current team. And this current team doesn't have the time to play
No,
that way.
no,
So
I wouldn't blame this team for I can't personally, it's really hard for me to hear people talk about current development. He doesn't have time for that. He has time for winning chips. That's what he's here for. That's what he started doing. That's what he's going to continue to do until he needs to do player development. It doesn't make sense. I don't know why people bring feelings into, oh, Jonathan Kaminga didn't get to play too much today, so what's going on there. He's given up. He doesn't want to play. He's got an attitude problem, blah blah blah. Or he hasn't had enough player development. Why don't they spend more time with him? Well, listen, it's the NBA. Okay, you either show up after 4 years and you are the player you're supposed to be, you put the time in when you're not on the court, or you don't. And it either works out or it doesn't. That's just the fact of the NBA and the facts of life. If you're not good enough to be there or something isn't going right, well then, shit happens. What can I say? It just didn't work out that way. So
yeah.
so I'm not saying he's not a good player. I totally agree with you that he will, and that's why I think his trade value is really good right now because
Well,
you
the
can
play, the
see
playoffs
what
helped. I'm
he
sure the
is for
playoffs
somebody
helped.
else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The playoffs helped because he just, got off the bench and reminded people that he can put the ball in the hole.
Yep.
And again, there are a lot of teams where that job is open, or even if that job's not open, they're like, but we certainly have the time to spend with a 22-year-old and see what he becomes over the next 5 years,
Yeah.
because we're not contending right now. And that's what I would, sort of ask anybody because there's plenty of people who are just so upset about the Jonathan thing. And I just wonder how they would feel if the organization went, okay, we're going to develop Jonathan Kaminga. And then when
Yeah.
your record is 30 and 52 at the end of the year,
Don't be pissed.
don't be pissed.
Yep.
Don't be pissed. You're not allowed to be pissed, but
Yep.
people are going to be pissed.
No, no,
So
it's all
other
about
than
winning.
that,
People forget that shit all the time. Nobody said anything when they won a championship with him, and he, of course,
right.
Kuminga was drafted that year. But listen, if you take Curry out to give, say you take Curry out to give, or Butler out and give Kuminga more time, and you lose those games, ultimately, as a fan, you're gonna be upset and saying, "Why'd you put Kuminga in? He's not consistent. We know Jimmy Butler's a better guy." Well, we're trying to develop him.
We
If you put him down in the G League, that's not going to do a whole lot. You can go dominate in the G League, come back up and be okay,
Yeah,
but not.
we've watched the results. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I think the underbelly of this whole thing, and it's hard to express because people will think that you're blaming Jonathan. I think Jonathan has been wonderful with the way he's handled a really, really
Sure.
hard situation.
Yep.
And then when he was called upon, he came in and he did everything that you could ask him to do.
Hmm.
So Jonathan gets an A for what he did based on what was presented to him.
I agree. And hey, if the
Dot,
market's
dot,
dried
dot,
up,
they lost all those games.
yeah, they
They
did.
lost all of them.
Yep.
So it's almost as if you really get out of your damn feelings and listen to what Steve Kerr is saying. When he says, I've been tasked with winning, it's
Hmm.
almost like the Kuminga side is like, Kuminga proved his point. And I'm like, so did Steve.
Yeah.
Steve said, okay, this is what it looks like. We're forced into it, but this is what it'll look like. And you went 0-4. And,
Yep.
and, and only one of them did you really have a chance to maybe win the game, you know?
Right.
And
Right.
and I know there are other players and stuff to talk about, Jimmy and Pods and all those in those games, but the bottom line is the bottom line. They lost, like Steph left and they couldn't win a game.
Yep. And that's coming down again to my feelings about consistency with just if we just get a couple more guys. I don't know that I'd want to trade Pods if I didn't have to because I do think he's developing very nicely. And so I'm not sure if we have to, we have to. That's one guy I look at and I go, he's developing well. He can, I mean, when he was asked to step up in the playoffs when Curry was done, he did he did a fine job considering he's in his second year. I mean, he
Right.
wasn't going to take, but it wasn't Kuminga in those games as much as everybody else. Just nobody could shoot the basket. Surprise, surprise! It's been the problem all year. All year, you can see a Warrior team that goes, "Hey, I can see that team winning a chip." And then next game, you look at it and you go, "How would they ever win a game?
They can't hit a
How can
shot.
they win a game?"
Yeah.
It's just up and
Yeah.
down inconsistency. So, I guess my final question to you would be because I know you're busy and you got to go pretty soon, but I guess it would just be like, say you're the GM, what's the first move you're trying to make? What's the player
Um,
out there that you think that you would be trying to target?
Yeah, again, I mean, I think there are a bunch of them, but if you wanted to go right off my absolute top wish list, there's probably the two names I've already mentioned is I would obviously the Pacers. Let's see where this season goes for them,
Hmm.
but Miles Turner is a very interesting situation to monitor. And if the other question that the Warriors need to know, because they're the only team out there with a lot of cap space, how interested is Brooklyn in Jonathan Kaminga? Like, do they like him? Do they love him? Do they not want him at all? But if they want to allocate money to Jonathan Kaminga, then I think there's a way to get Cam Johnson on the Warriors, and I think he is just a perfect fit.
Yeah.
He's a perfect fit. He can score, he shoots the three, he defends at a high level. He is a gem of a person. He would fit the Warriors absolutely perfectly. Now, there's other names out there. Luke Cornett from the Celtics, like he would fit. Like that would be a good player for the Warriors, but that's not in your that's not in your dream house. That's just sort of like
No.
when you get functional and go to the hardware store, there'll probably be some acquisitions like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Cam Johnson sounds awesome, and that's a name that the two names I keep looking at and thinking would be great would be Cam Johnson or Jared Allen, if Jared Allen would even be available. I like
Yeah.
Jared Allen. I'd rather have Cam Johnson, but those two guys I think are the top two I think that I would go for if I was the Warriors, barring any
Yep.
situation where
There,
Giannis decides he doesn't want to move.
there's
But
going to be a big guy. I don't know if he's going to be a 26-minute guy, an 18-minute guy, but there's
yeah,
going to be a big guy. There's
yeah,
no question about that.
yeah. Right on, man. Well, hey, listen, I really appreciate you being here. I hope I can get you back on for more Warrior talk when the season
Of
starts
course, we'll
coming
do it
back up,
again.
man.
You let me
But
know. You know where to find me.
awesome, man. So I really appreciate everybody out there. Remember, hit the like, hit the subscribe, check out the video today. I really appreciate all your support out there, guys. Um, we'll see you in the next one, Mark, whenever we get a chance, and you'll hear me on the radio from time to time calling in and giving some takes that are pretty good with one or two that may be like questionable.
I do the show the exact same way. So all good. But no, appreciate you having me and look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you very much. All right, guys. See you in the next one.